This is not-faced beauty from Monday. Frederick Douglass is attributed to having said the following quote: "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." There is a new boy at school. He sits to the left of me in my second grade classroom. His is the desk at the furthest corner of the room, further even than my own assigned seat. I notice him because I must see past him to look out of the window. I spend my days daydreaming as I gaze out of that window. It is early autumn. I am bored. He is odd, like me, but different. He has no friends, and no one seems to like him. Like me, he is sickly. I am sickly, yet sturdy. Often, we are told by teacher to rest our heads on our bent forearms on the desk. When my head is placed forward on top of my bent arms, my nose runs. It runs like a faucet. My runny nose drives Mama crazy. She hates the sneezing, coughing, and wheezing noises I make. The allergist's office smelled strongly of rubbing alcohol and bleach. I liked the smell. I liked it because I could smell it. My shirt hung from the hook on the back of the door. I was cold and wanted to put it back on as soon as the nurse began cleaning my back with the rubbing alcohol. The cold tingling made my body clench. I hate being seen or touched. Here, I am completely exposed. Dozens of allergens are being administered onto the skin of my back. Dozens of allergens are being administered onto the skin of my back. Just thinking of it makes my skin crawl now, years later. Just thinking of it makes my skin crawl now, years later. The nurse set the timer and left me on my own while she administered treatments to patients in the other rooms of the allergy clinic. Just as the timer went off, she returned, checked my back for signs of irritation, and applied the next series of allergens. Following the third application, Mama returned with the nurse. Mama was angry. I'd never seen Mama so mad. The nurse ran for the doctor. I was given a shot and a liquid to drink between my swollen lips. My eyes were swollen shut. I don't remember the rest, but they never tested me again. Apparently, I am allergic to life. I had gone into shock. The marker for irritation that the nurse expected to encounter was the reddening of the skin on my back. When there was no sign of irritation, the potency of the injection was increased. Mama didn't feel like sitting with me, so it wasn't until she herself saw my back that the nurse understood that skin like ours, skin with more melanin, registers red differently. The nurse was only looking for bright pink spots on alabaster flesh, nothing more. Mama's people are reds. She is red. I am red. But comparatively speaking, the nurse the nurse should have registered some change in complexion prior to sending me into anaphylactic shock. Bullying is like oxygen to my lungs. I became fearful of breathing from the constant reminders in grade school of forcible exhalations produced by the direct force received through a powerful abdominal blow. In the next instance, when the lungs fight to bring air back to the brain, a proper abdominal breath is achieved. For all my experience of being punched in the stomach in grade school, it was with the utmost delay. No. For all my experience of being punched in the stomach in grade school, it was with the uttermost dismay. No, utmost. Okay. For all of my experience of being punched in the stomach in grade school, it was with the utmost dismay that I discovered myself to be guilty of reverse breathing when I began my yoga practice at age 14. The administrator of these predictive the administrator of these predictably orchestrated physical and verbal attacks was by one well-loved, spoiled, yet artfully neglected perpetrator. He was Hitler's Aryan ideal and worshipped by our teachers for his athletic prowess. He was their little Achilles. I was the runt of the rabbit pack, marked, yet feebly trying to sprint away from Achilles' well-meant arrow. Many believe that children only repeat what they learn at home. I didn't. I've always given full credit for their capacity for the angelic as well as the beauty. I've always given children full credit for their capacity for the angelic as well as the beastly. In all those years, I never raised a hand or said a word against him or any of his chosen bullying comrades. When the opportunity presented itself, I could only think of Jesus Christ and those temporary pains and taunts meant nothing by comparison. When the futility of running became less palatable, I began discovering better places to hide. Because if they were out of doors, I would be found. By the end of the second grade, I realized I could spend recess in the library. The library was perfectly safe, as improved imaginings and literacy were not my tormentor's forte. The library, the library was perfectly safe, as improved imaginings. The library was perfectly safe, as improved imaginings and literacy were not my tormentor's forte. The library was the land of dreams, so books became my mind's escape route. Here, as well as at home in Bible study, I began to develop gnosis, my capacity to think. When you pick up a book, you give it permission to enter your mind, and only you can set the direction. You can pick it up, put it down, and debate it at your leisure. The descriptions of peoples and places become yours for the imagining. Whichever visualization you, the reader, choose, determined all persons, places, and things within this sacred realm. I could choose to read these books or not. I could believe in them or not. No torment in sight. I never got that experience from the Bible. There were no choices with it. We were taught at church how to read it. We were told when to stand and what book to open it to. We were taught to recite the order of the books and their authors, then told what page to turn the Bible to as we stood to read aloud as a congregation. We were told what each verse meant and how these applied to our lives and manifested into circumstances. We were told to read the Bible and how to pantomime our lives accordingly. This was a parody of engagement, choices, and opportunity. Fundamentally, there were none of these available to me, and the notion of applying my mind and the individuality of my person was scoffed at. I was meant to read, but not to think. I should be afraid, but not too afraid. The level of fear I expressed and spoke of was not coming to me through God. This was the work of Satan himself. Clearly, I was hiding something. There was something wrong with me if the sermons and teachings were giving me nightmares. The act of reading the Bible was an act of violence against me. The act of reading the Bible was an act of violence against me. The act of reading the Bible was an act of violence against myself. In primary school, We are often told to rest our heads on our desk. Normally, when I do this, the kids at school shame and mock me mercilessly for the snot which is then on my face when we come up from having our heads down. But not the new boy. He says nothing. The new boy might be kind. In the morning, in the morning, we began our school day with the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. The new boy does not. He does not even stand. He is a Jehovah's Witness. Parents don't want their children playing with him. He is not a patriot, but he wants to be. He wishes he could be normal. I wish I could be him. The other children are still learning to read and write legibly. They are deeply engrossed in their rudimentary grammatical primers. They are deeply engrossed. They are deeply engrossed in their rudimentary grammatical primers. All around me, the others are clumsily gripping their pencils. Unconsciously, some children have their mouths opened in concentration. Others, tongues protrude with the slight thread of drool appearing at the corners of their mouths. I can smell the sickly sweetness of their combined breathing. My completed primer sits unnoticed at the top corner of the desk. I worked through the entirety of my primer. I worked through the entirety of my workbook the first week of school. Now I have nothing to do for the rest of the year. I am often bored by the lessons, but the teacher refuses to mark my primer ahead of the planned syllabus. Other children have progressed to the next grade for less. When I stayed behind at recess, no, when I stayed behind at recess that second Monday to hand her my primer, she said that I had obviously not completed the primer myself. After thumbing through my primer, she pushed it across. After thumbing through my primer, she pushed it. Wow, that's hard. Pushed. After thumbing through my primer, she pushed it across her table with a look of disdain across her face. This was a look nearly as repulsed as Mama's when she was chiding the nurse over my back. Teacher always looked like that when she saw me. That's why my desk is in the back now. Whose primer is this? Where did you get this? I know that this is not your work. Again, I insisted that this was indeed my primer, but teacher would only believe that I had disobeyed her instruction, stolen it, and given it to Sissy to complete. Sissy had skipped several grades already. The whole school knew about Sissy's smarts. I asked teacher for a new primer to prove myself. Teacher sent me to the principal's office with a note for insubordination. The principal tried to speak to me before he began with the paddle, but I preferred to accept the beating silently, without drama. I'd learned this from dealing with Mama. The sight of me also made Mama cringe sometimes, so I'd taken to being as invisible as possible during her rage attacks. Teacher never gave me another primer, so now I sit and dream. I read and write well enough, so I'm grateful for the time. Sissy was worried that I would be overlooked at school because I wouldn't speak in front of most people, let alone strangers. At home, I talked nonstop. I wanted to say everything about what I read to anyone who would listen. They didn't even need to listen, they only needed to be nearby. Elsewhere, I am silent. Everywhere else, I am silent. I don't want to be noticed. I feel safer that way. The summer before I began kindergarten, Sissy taught me everything she had learned in school. She was in sixth grade at the time. She was in sixth grade at the time. Sissy made a play school for me in the garage. Sissy ensured my knowledge of letters, sentence, and paragraph structures, and everything I needed to know about addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. She got me through grade school that summer. Sissy was a good teacher. Now I spend my days dreaming. I love the world of my dreams. I love the world of my dreams.